And I believe we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the State of Video Game live streaming. I'll be your host this afternoon or this morning, depending where you are in the country. Jake Phillips, Chief Revenue Officer of Stream Hatchet. And yeah, got a few awesome folks joining me today to run through this report and talk about some trends and insights. Steve, why don't we start with you with introductions?
Hey, I am Steve Wiseman. I'm the head of gaming at the Outloud Group. We're an influencer marketing agency, so we're helping brands navigate the gaming space as well as the influencer space as a whole.
Awesome. And Brett?
Hi, Brett Bair, head of product for Sidekick. We're a creator marketing and management platform, and really helping brands, whether game publishers to just kind of everyday household name brands, harness the power of streamers and creators out there, and help you kind of manage that whole from acquisition and vetting through to activation and ongoing engagement with creators, and helping you get the most out of them to drive the kind of value you're looking to with your business.
Yeah, thrilled to have Brett and Steve here today, especially Brett. I think we, as going to market together, Stream Hatchet and Sidekick have become closer and closer, obviously trying to bridge the social and live streaming piece. So thrilled to have kind of a new face, and hopefully one we'll see quite a few more times as we have more webinars through the year. Awesome. So we can go ahead and get kicked off if we want to bring up the presentation. Awesome. So obviously, today we'll be talking through quite a few different topics from top channels, esports and how it's trending, the market stabilizing as a whole, and quite a few different topics. So we'll try to keep it as fluid as possible. I will try to keep us on time, but as any of the viewers tune in, if you have any questions, please feel free to send them, and we'll do our best to get those answered as they come through. So live streaming, obviously we've seen a ton of growth through COVID, and really since COVID, we've seen a bit more of a dip as things have leveled out and people have headed back to work. But I think the real narrative that we've seen last year is we saw a lot of stabilization, which I think is exciting across the board. But for you folks, I guess, any key indicators of why you're thinking live's been able to have the staying power? Did you expect it to maybe fall off a little bit more? Steve, I guess we'll start with you.
I think the stabilization is where I had it at, especially when Twitch loosened up their co-streaming abilities. I think that has really helped, because I've noticed a lot of creators, who were just on Twitch, their viewership kind of dipped, and then now with the ability to like go live on YouTube and TikTok and all these other platforms at the same time, collectively they are getting more viewership now, and also different audiences, you're hitting different platforms. So I think that was one big thing for me that I was like a sign of good things. And then also from like a brand perspective, a lot of the times when people are co-streaming, in some cases, like you're doing a stream, you're getting it on 3 different platforms, when in some cases the rate's only for one, which is a real big bonus when you're doing that. And then with, YouTube, with their streaming, it's a little bit more searchable, it's a little bit more findable, so that, that live integration potentially has some more legs to it, which is really good.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Brett, any thoughts?
Yeah, I just think, it's interesting, the stabilization, but at the same time, I'm really curious what's going to happen, the next year or so, because, there's this whole generation of kids that are coming up now. A lot of them are just now old enough for Twitch and that content, that their whole kind of universe changed through COVID, and things just that has just, I think it's one of those underestimated things that's coming down the pike, especially for brands that aren't as focused on the gaming, streaming, and gaming publishers and this world. I just think there's just all this opportunity that is just going to be massive in the next few years. And whether it's kind of growth or just, I think just the growth across all of the different channels. Obviously we've seen, coming from, looking on the Sidekick perspective, right? The growth in TikTok, the growth in even Twitter still being a really relevant part of how these people, the creators are communicating, and how you can harness all of that
Yep.
is really interesting. I think that is so nascent to me. It's so new and it's so evolving that it's just going to take a few years, I think, for the broader kind of world to understand how powerful this stuff really is. That's what I'm most excited about.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting too, and you kind of touch on all of these new platforms that are evolving, and we'll go into a little bit more depth in those future slides. But I think a lot of younger audiences are doing a lot more on TikTok Live as well as like YouTube Live, and now that they can also kind of do that through the short form is really, really fascinating. So seeing where those platforms start ebbing in, whether through funnel channels to longer form or just shorter form, easier access, I think is going to be really curious. Speaking of platforms, obviously Twitch is still doing really, really well, kind of remaining up there. Who would have guessed? But I think what's been interesting is really Kick's kind of coming out party and being able to kind of take a pretty significant market share. It seems like everybody, in my opinion, kind of who is doing multi-platform streaming has a broadcast on Twitch or on Kick as well as the other platforms. So I think it's really interesting to see the types of audiences, but I guess, and I'm curious to the group, but do we feel like Kick's kind of has come and landed safely as the replacement for kind of what Facebook gaming was kind of at its peak? Is that good third support platform, or do you really think we'll be able to take them and continue to take more market share?
I think it has come in as a third platform. I don't know about safety, especially with some of the some of the channels that you scroll through and the things that you see. But I think if creators take it seriously and actually, pay attention to the content that you should be doing there and not doing dumb things. I mean, there's people going to be doing dumb things on all platforms, but like Kick just seems to kind of really stand out there real quick when it happens. It's kind of the little brother going on right now where people are looking for a reason to post those things. But I mean, I think YouTube numbers are going to come up, especially with the ability to do the vertical streaming now. I think once they figure out how to better integrate the ability to go live in a normal horizontal feature to like, essentially just duplicate it, or how, TikTok does it where you send your horizontal stream and then people can view it, and then it tells you to flip it sideways. But I do like the feature of if somebody sees a YouTube short and you are live, your name is highlighted, so it's clickable. It'll send them to that. So anything that's like driving traffic to other streams is really good. But I mean, I think Kick obviously like will continue to grow. They keep doing their creator programs and they get a lot of new signups and a lot of everything. But I think it's definitely that people are looking to be first on the ground because they can kind of solidify their space. But when everybody's doing it, I don't think it really has as much value because everybody's running the same race at the same time. And it's not, I mean, there's obvious standouts, but it's still going, and we'll continue to look at it and see where it goes.
Brett, any thoughts or comments there?
I mean, I think it's like anything else, right? When you're kind of the upstart, you're new and emerging, it's finding your place, right? Finding your kind of unique kind of voice in the market. And I think it's probably not the best long-term strategy for them to be the next Twitch. It's more of like, what are they going to find that's kind of uniquely theirs and you know what I mean, and attract those creators and attract that audience. I think that to me is really the more valuable thing that they could be doing, and kind of watching what I think anything like this where some of the evolution is organic and just you kind of see like Steve making comments about some of the Wild Westness of it and just kind of random, unfortunately not always the best content, but still something where there are kind of little glimmers of something interesting that people will gravitate towards, and those will likely emerge as being the things that are what Kick could eventually hang their hat on. So
I think another interesting piece as well is like Afrika, just trying to see how that platform, I think they have a huge opportunity to grow. Twitch is shutting down operations in South Korea, obviously. They've been a really good standing foundation there, and I'm so curious to see in the next couple of quarters how this transition kind of happens. We've seen some other platforms kind of come out like Chisk as well. That's been interesting in different regions, but yeah, I think Afrika has a good shot, and in them outshining Kick, in my opinion, would be a huge victory that not a lot of people are really looking at or talking about.
Yeah, and I think if they can find a way like how I believe it was Twitch when Facebook Gaming kind of ended, they were like, "Hey, if you're a partner over here, you can become a partner over here as well. You know, go there." I think if they can capitalize on that,
Yeah,
then that's going to be a really good boost for them.
yeah, that'd be a really really smart strategy. And just to dive a little bit deeper into those platforms, I think again, Twitch viewership by quarter, overall maybe down slightly just because of the initial quarters, but I think again seeing that uptick in Q4 has been really interesting. I guess not much surprise here. Twitch is stable and firm. If we can go to the next one on YouTube, a lot of growth. And I think it's really, really great to see. And not even just from like a gaming perspective. Obviously, this is taking mainly gaming into effect, but I think their growth on like non-traditional gaming content has been crazy too. Like we did a brief report on a lot of what Barstool Sports has been doing. And when like they're doing the overnight where they're trying to hit a hole in one for like 36 hours straight, I mean, the viewership that those guys are hitting for brands like Body Armor are just destroying. And I'm like, it not something you would typically find, but a perfectly great example of a really solid activation. And I think YouTube just has such a friendly I guess a more friendly environment, in my opinion, to go more broad with your content, rather where Twitch kind of just because it is so rooted in gaming, maybe is a little bit more siloed.
And I think too with YouTube, like having those functionalities where you can pre-schedule a stream. You know, it's got the thumbnail already up. It's already got all your, you know, your captions, your captions, like your tags, everything. It's hitting people with multiple notifications that you're going live, as opposed to one where the majority on Twitch are not going to receive it, or, you know, based on how your phone operates, if you start ignoring those Twitch notifications, your phone stops sending them, or, you know, iPhones stop giving you notifications. So that's a big thing. You know, having those unique thumbnails, the ability to do, you know, to push higher quality video as well. Like Twitch is starting to play with it, but YouTube kind of hit it first. So I think those are big gains to be had there.
Yeah, and I would go beyond that, just the integration of YouTube in broader things like primary in Google search results. It's in, I can go, you know, many devices include, you know, it directly in the device. So just that is going to be an advantage. And I think, Jake, to your point around how much additional crossover happens from other adjacent categories, even non-adjacent categories that people get introduced to kind of a broader set of content with YouTube. It just, you know, they have a clear advantage when it comes to that and attracting kind of a much wider audience and the more convenient, you know, one that isn't necessarily needs to be there on time for the stream. They can it's already kind of, I think, embedded in all of us that I can consume YouTube content at any time, anywhere.
Yeah. To put my aluminum foil conspiracy hat on for a second, with TikTok being kind of in the lurch, like I think YouTube Shorts is the only legitimate like competitor to them in the market right now. If TikTok does get banned in the US, I think, and even obviously we got a long way to go. I mean, obviously it's just been one vote, but if that happens, I think YouTube's opportunity to collect that market and open them up to broader streaming, I think is just a crazy opportunity, but obviously a lot of things have to happen for that to actually be the case. But still interesting.
Yeah, YouTube Shorts, I mean, is great. I mean, if you're building a YouTube channel right now, YouTube Shorts, the algorithm there, like you get insane views right now. My only gripe with it is when you do a short, the music that they recommend, they're like, yeah, use this song, and you put it up and you're like, it's a popular song. Immediately it gets, you know, muted because they're like, hey, yeah, use this popular whatever song, is the trend of the minute. And I'm like, that's not royalty free. You can't use that. Why are you recommending it to me? And then I get, you get punished as the creator. You're like, you don't want to get demonetized, or have your, the music muted. So that's my biggest gripe right now. Well, one of my gripes with TikTok shorts or YouTube shorts.
YouTube shorts.
And was it Warner who took all of their music off of TikTok?
UMG was,
UMG?
I think,
Universal,
UMG,
yes.
Yeah, Universal Music Group.
I mean,
that was so dumb.
But if they do a deal with YouTube,
and they should,
that would, I mean, talk about user acquisition. That would be, man.
I mean, so many creators got cut at the knees, and like I understand that everybody needs to get paid for their music, and they're looking after. I mean, you'd hope that they're looking after their artist's best interest by getting paid, but like the secondary things when you knock off the music on TikTok is any song that UMG has, Billboard's looking at TikTok music music numbers now. And there's no UMG music on there now. So any artist that's looking try to, break out, do a viral video to get their, the word of their song out or whatever, that ability's gone on that platform. So like, why are you even posting there?
I think that's going to have to change. It's going to change. It changed the same when music first became something that you could access kind of however you wanted. Like, I think it's going to have to change because the record labels and the artists are going to realize, like, this is a huge part of my promotion, which drives people to my concerts, and that label is really standing in their way of that growth. So to me, it's just inevitable that will change, just like it did with when streaming music first came to be. Same kind of evolution, right? It was like, oh no, we don't want anyone getting our stuff for free. Then people realized, oh, this actually helps me grow in a way non-traditional ways could not ever come close to. So that's
interesting one. Lots to uncover there. Africa, again, as we were mentioning, South Korean platform, I think has a huge opportunity. When we start looking at Q1, once it's wrapped up, in our next webinar, I'm want to be sure we highlight this, but I think we'll see a definite jump as they start making it over there. But seeing how that platform, as well as the others in the region, develop, is going to be an interesting one down. I think a big piece of that is just seeing like the unique channels being down 20% year over year. That's the number I think we really need to kind of keep an eye on, because, well, that and like consistent streaming, but the number of uniques is going to be really crucial to see them see that same viewership. Kick by the quarters, again, great. Q2, Q3, and 4. A little surprised Q4 didn't jump up a little bit more. I think they've probably seen a bit more growth in Q1 when those numbers are kind of more formalized. But yeah, I thought a little curious to see it slightly flat between Q3 and 4.
I think you're going to see a jump in Q1 because of the creator programs that they've done. I think I saw on Twitter somewhere they added like a couple 100,000 new users to it. So like, that's going to get there. I mean, especially with the co-streaming, if you have the ability to do it, you're not a Twitch partner, or throw it up there and see if that's your choice of platform. It's definitely a viable one, and especially if you're streaming in a really crowded category on Twitch, like if you want to be streaming Minecraft or something. I mean, there's 20 million people ahead of you. If you're someone who's sub 50, 60 viewers or whatever, or a really unique game, you could carve out your own niche there. So I think it'll go up if you want.
Yeah, that stat at the bottom there is interesting too. The fact that it's 6 times the unique users that Africa has, but is attaining relatively the same viewership. So you're seeing a lot of people trying it out or testing to see kind of what, dipping their toes in to see what's happening, but not necessarily translating to a lot of the viewership. And I think that's another thing when you think about Kick too, as far as like right now the platform's a little top heavy. Like the bigger channels are getting the viewership, but they're the mid tier and the micros. It's more of like a macro to micro immediately, the more steep drop on that platform for sure. Top streamers of the year. So Abai still number one. Obviously somebody does a lot of different variety stuff, but as you can see on the list, like XQC, Aiden Ross, A lot of folks that are doing the co-streaming are seeing their success. But I guess any standouts here, Steve or Brett, on like influencers that have really kind of impressed you with their partnerships or kind of their success over the last 12 months?
I mean, I think looking at this list, you can kind of see with some of these creators, like some of them have the standard stuff, but most of these creators are creating just like ridiculous content.
Yeah.
It's very shock value-y, and people are, I think, in my case, like, it doesn't really do it for me. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not my style of content,
Sure.
but like, you're looking at this and like, I feel like a lot of viewers are gonna be like, what are they gonna do next? Because they can't keep doing the same thing. And, they have to keep push, like these guys like are forced to push the envelope to keep and maintain their viewership now. And it's kind of scary because like the stuff that they're doing, doing fireworks in your room, throwing smoke bombs and stuff, like, what are you going to do next? Burn your whole house down on stream?
Yeah.
Like that's where, like, that's what it has to get to. So I think they need to try to find like, like Wednesday's going to be my crazy day. And then like, these are my normal days. But I think, I mean, obviously with streaming platforms, there's something for everyone. So like, while this list may not entice me, clearly there are tons of people who are like, yeah, I love this stuff. I'm going to be watching and continuously tuning in. So I think that's really, where it's moving, but it's scary kind of sometimes to see some of the clips and tune in and you're just like, wow. But in other cases, like obviously people like the content, so they're going to continue to watch.
Yeah. I think for me, what's really interesting is almost like the people that aren't on here, like who are those emerging people? Who are those mid-tier creators? Because to me, like, why this stuff is so compelling, and it's not the gimmicks, right? It's not these things, the shock and awe. It's authentic content, people that love what they're talking about. They really enjoy talking about the game or playing the game, and just have a love for it that other people that have that same love want to tune in. They want to, that's to me is what's so compelling about it, and what is so compelling to brands out there that are trying to kind of come in and leverage these audiences. Like, to me, that is the most important thing. And that's why this stuff can convert kind of, that broader audience to do things that other media can't, because it just has that, it's not comfort, but it's like, it's this person is not all that different than me. It's that appeal is just, it's just so valuable and so absent and kind of everything else out there when you're trying to promote things or get more people to check out what you got going on. And I just feel like this is something where, I'm hoping more of the broader majority of the creators realize that, kind of being authentic and doing your thing is what is the value, right? And more of that becomes what the businesses out there that are looking to invest really in these creators through promotions and sponsoring and all those things, like that is what they understand the value is as well. Because I think it's fleeting, right? See, I think you kind of get, I think it's actually kind of scary to be at the top of these lists, because like you said, it's really hard to continue to
level up
people to exactly. The next level up is so hard.
I think so like, too. And are they alienating themselves from brand deals in the future? Because like and to quote the prophet Mr. Beast, I mean, I've been seeing like I saw a tweet of his the other day talking about how he's really moved away from more of like loud screaming in your face content to more story driven narratives and more like philanthropic stuff that he wants to do that really gives back. And I think like he's like talking about how he just wanted that to be the new wave of how people are making content. And I think too, it's like for these folks, if they are going to do the level up game to grow that audience, you're not going to be squeaky clean enough for some of those brands to be doing partnerships, even when you stop doing that content, right? Like even XQC, somebody who, I mean, has always been like relatively controversial, I think is less controversial than half of the guys at the top of the list now these days. Where considering he's probably a much safer look for a brand than some of the other guys and girls on the list. So I think that's another piece to it too, is like, is it a strategy for them to just level up, get a sustained audience, and then try to evolve their content past something to see if they can make a more sustainable future? Because I think what we'll find out for sure is that it's hard to stay on this list years and years in a row, right?
Yeah.
I don't see Doc on here. I don't see Tim on here. I don't see Ninja on here. It's like the numbers change all the time. And but again, if you look at those, like even those folks that we just talked about, like the sustainability that those guys represent in those longer time, I think is really the advantage.
And plus, I mean, plus your audience, at like what point are they going to age out of your content too?
Yes.
You know, that's a really big thing. Cause like, you know, you think about it, the content creators that you watched 3 years ago or 2 years ago, or even 6 months ago, like you're like, I don't really like that. Or they're playing, you know, or if you're tuning in for a specific game, like a lot of these guys have the, you know, a lot of these people have the benefit of like, they're not actually playing games in most cases. Yeah. So like that kind of, it's always something different, but like, if you're looking for a second screen experience while you're working or looking at something else, you know, having a consistent schedule does help, and like a consistent content flow. Like if I'm in the mood to watch Fortnite, I know who to go to play Fortnite. You know, if one of these guys plays Fortnite one time and I like loved it, but then they never do it again, why would I continue watching them? So that's kind of a thing that I've noticed, especially like, I mean, there's creators that I was like, live and die every single time they go live, I'm in their streams. And now you're like, oh, they're still doing that. And I haven't tuned in a while. I'll go check in. And it's like, you know, putting on that pair of shoes that you haven't worn in like 6 months and they still fit perfectly. And it's great. You get that warm, nostalgic feeling and you tune in, but you know, sometimes it goes away. So,
and I think that's even more of an inflection point for youth audiences. I keep making the analogy of like, how often are you still doing the activities that you thought were cool and awesome in 6th grade when you're a sophomore in high school?
Yeah.
Right. Like those changes evolve. Like maybe it was Fortnite in 6th grade and that's like, that's not cool anymore. That's not the way to do things. So I think that's the other thing too, is like monitoring these audiences as well to understand the trends that are going on, because like it's going to change quick, and I think it moves a lot faster than a lot of folks give it credit for.
Well, and Jake, I think it's also new, right? Because this, you know, you're only looking at really like a decade time span of all these, you know, the real core of it, right? So it's like, you know, and I've watched this in my own, you know, personal life, having a teenage child. Like, you know, it started with Roblox and YouTube VODs, and then it went to Minecraft, and then it evolved to Fortnite, and then it evolves now to, you know, Call of Duty, and like that evolution, and you know, content that, you know, was watched changed, and the sources of the content changed, and more recently, Twitch has become, you know, a more prominent platform. For him, like it's just crazy how that and there is an opportunity to tap into that, right? To understand that these folks are coming through this progression. These are the games that they're progressing through. This is what's interesting that wasn't interesting before. I think it's, you know, and to me, like, you know, I always come back to probably the most powerful thing I witnessed through any of this was Prime. Prime coming into the universe, you know, that drink, and the fact that, like, I think every 6th grade child in the universe had to have, like, it was to these kids, and just, it was insane, because really it was only being talked about through these channels. Like, it wasn't no big billboards or campaigns on TV, and none of that. It was done purely through this, and it was insane how quickly that grew. You know, and to me that was like, wow, there is so much power here, and there's so much kind of things we don't yet understand how to take advantage of it. And I think, you know, what you just talked about, Jake, kind of this progression, and how like aging out, and how that stuff becomes, you know, really, really, you know, something that we will figure out how to tap into, and kind of excited to see how we can do that.
All right, top female creators. A lot of new names on this list, and to see some new creators kind of moving quickly, I think it's always nice to see. And then obviously a lot of familiar faces here. But I guess as far as brands like approaching females and still leveraging this audience to really go after those audiences, or Steve, on your side, and Brett likewise, I guess, are we still seeing a good plethora of both regular and female focused brands that are trying to enter the market and work with these folks?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have it gives you a broader reach. In some cases, a lot of their content is a lot safer.
Yeah.
But I mean, like looking at this list, you have a lot of these creators who are consistently playing together and who've kind of come up at
Yeah.
the same time, and or are doing shows together. Valkyrae and Cutie Cinderella did, Valk was co-host on the Streamer Awards. So like
Yep.
you see a lot of them floating in the same circles. Emaru's on, OTK. So like she's getting bumps there on the content. I mean, you're still seeing though, in a lot of these cases, like it's still pretty male dominated viewership on a
Yeah.
lot of them, but it does to some brands like make it more approachable.
Yeah. Brett,
But
Yeah,
this list is definitely less surprising to me than the other list.
the other, yeah, I'd agree with you there.
Yeah, I think there's just still, I know the growth of the kind of female streamers isn't all that interesting, but I think there's more to come, right? There's going to be more of this. Like I say, I think a lot of it is kind of back to your point, Jake, around the youth. I think, it's just a different game, and a lot of the people that, a lot of women, young women that are playing games more and have this interest and now have an outlet for it, like they're almost just now aging into it. So I think it's coming. I think it's going to continue to grow. And I think you're right, Steve. Brands in many cases will find these creators more approachable and more, they're less risk, right? Less risk, less kind of concern about their brand and the integrity of the brand, and can be more trustworthy here. So I think this is just probably untapped opportunity, and greater untapped opportunity than maybe what we're seeing
And I
in
think
the
too,
more
just
established.
interesting to see only YouTube really up here is like the one channel, mainly Twitch leading the way. Yeah, I think Kick can definitely be a more toxic environment for female creators. I'd care to imagine, especially for like more casual creators. But at the same time, I think we are seeing like Jen Fox is obviously up there, but it's going to be for a certain type of audience. And but yeah, interesting to see if kind of YouTube continues to grow their audiences a bit more, but interesting to see Twitch the dominant. Cool. Genres. So some interesting stats here. I think the overall industry, in my opinion, has kind of been in a flux of game titles. I keep saying, like, when Grand Theft Auto 6 come out, it's the next renaissance. All these amazing games that are completely next gen, that are leveraging all these new techs that we're building right now, are going to be there. But seeing FPS as a genre down 11%, I think is really interesting, and may be alluding to kind of the market maybe feeling a bit stale at the moment. I guess any thoughts there?
I think.
I mean,
go
ahead.
Go
Sorry.
ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I think the one thing that isn't really represented here that I thought was a really interesting observation this past year was kind of classic Fortnite and what that did to bring some people that hadn't played the game for a while back in. I just thought that was like, wow, we've evolved to the place where that's something that can happen, and you can kind of re-engage an audience that maybe has become disenchanted or bored, or it's too formulaic, whatever that is. And that formula, obviously, a lot of people have adopted. So it's not like it's anything surprising, but just to me, that was an interesting kind of sub bullet to the.
It was that we did a blog around that time as well on the topic, and it was just fascinating, because I think that's another piece too, Brett, that we were even talking to a couple partners about, just on taking advantage of it, of like, hey, Fortnite's audience is typically going to skew younger, as you'd imagine. But as Fortnite OG comes out, that demographic is going to change as the older players that haven't played for a few seasons dive back in. And yeah, I think those types of season releases are going to be a really interesting thing to watch this year, like, because that's how you re-engage the audiences and kind of get them to come back in. Yeah, Steve, any additional pieces there?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously like your Q1 bump next time, I mean, Helldivers 2, that game is destroying everything because democracy. And but I think looking at this list, you have, you know, with your action adventure stuff, your Grand Theft Autos, your Minecraft, in reality, you don't have to be really good at the game. Like,
Yeah.
I think that is really creator-driven content. You're tuning in because you're entertained by the creator more so than the gameplay. Whereas something like Valorant, Counter-Strike, you know, like you have your unicorns where people who are very entertaining and really good at the game. It's not everyone. You know, if you're looking for like high quality, you know, Valorant plays, like, you know, the creator's not going to be chatting every second and looking at the chat and engaging with their audience. They're going to be heads down focused trying to win. So I think like seeing the boost here with, you know, Grand Theft Auto 5, you know, you have all your role-playing servers and people who are consistently doing that. Like those streams are so engaging the entire time. That I love those. And then like even Minecraft, like I'm not a Minecraft player. I will watch Minecraft streams all the time because the creators are so fun to watch. You know, they're building crazy stuff, they're doing fun things, and it's just a little bit more engaging. I think Pal World will probably pop up on the list too, though it's kind of ticked down a little bit just because I think it was really, really cool the second it came out, but you know, it's kind of dipped a little bit until they add something new and then everyone will jump back in. But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, like you won't see Hogwarts Legacy on that list next time.
No,
like,
no.
that's
and I think
gone.
it's interesting too to see action adventure have an uptick, because I'm always curious about, like, we've had quite a few linear storyline games come out, and I think Hogwarts Legacy's been a big one. Obviously, God of War a few years ago, they're recent. It's always just fascinating for me to see the staying power that those guys can have. But to touch on your point, Steve, like Minecraft, Grand Theft Auto, all like the private servers and all like the UEFM maps as well. That's something GameSquare has really been having a lot of success with, is and something we want to do a better analysis of is like, how does players within the map relate to streaming, and how can we kind of tie those two numbers together to understand map popularity is how that affects the game popularity as a whole. Because I think that's just such an interesting and ever evolving piece that I think more games are going to lean into, and have that in mind as they go to launch strategy. Is like, this is something that maybe initially was kind of thought of as like, hey, don't be recreating and cloning things and doing stuff that's out of brand. But I think it worked out for everybody, and gives brands a lot of flexibility on how to activate.
From like a brand perspective too, like if you're, you know, pitching sponsorships of streamers and, you know, events, or, you know, just individual creators, like looking at this action adventure category, a brand integration can be much more natural because they're already talking consistently. They don't have to wait for the game to be at like a low point or between matches to do an integration, especially if, you know, if someone asks a question in chat really quick, you know, they can answer it while they're still doing stuff. But if, you know, someone's, you know, 1v4ing somebody in Call of Duty in the last circle, they're not going to stop, you know, unless they're one of those crazy good, crazy entertaining creators that can do that. And then the same thing goes with like, you know, League of Legends and, you know, Dota 2. I think it's kind of the same caliber of, you know, fits the same thing with first person shooters, but obviously there's always the creators who are super engaging, but as well as like, you know, your league integrations where it's more of an NFL, NBA type of thing where you have specific beats where your integrations are going to go. This moment of the match brought to you by XYZ brand, so it makes more sense there.
Awesome. Top games. So across the board here, some staying power. Obviously, Grand Theft Auto isn't going anywhere. League of Legends still doing great. Valorant. Minecraft, Fortnite up 2% year over year. I think again, Brett, they definitely saw a bump in Q4 with the release of OG, which has been really, which was really successful for them. World of Warcraft's, I guess, interesting to see as a whole, relatively flat or lower numbers than last year, because I think that just points to more content types being popular as well. Because I mean, we didn't see that sharp of a drop in overall viewership, but even with these games, obviously, like most of them have been here for a very long time, especially Grand Theft Auto and League, Dota. So obviously a little fatigue, but I guess any thoughts or reactions here?
I mean, I think World of Warcraft's great because, like, I know I started paying attention a lot more to a lot of creators who were doing WoW Classic, like death runs, where, you know, they were on these different servers where it's like, you die, you're done. And like, I was paying attention to those because I'm like, I really want to see where this goes. And it felt like a story. And not so much just like, oh, I'm logging in to do my dailies and I'm going to do a raid and then we'll be done. It was like, you're invested in that, you know, creator, and you're invested in that character that they're playing because you're like, you don't want to see him die. Or if you're awful, you do, or you're betting on them when they're going to do it. So I think I tuned in for a lot of those streams, which was really cool and really fun to watch. Obviously, like Grand Theft Auto, you know, the second 6 pops, it's done. And then I think it'll dip a little bit until PC comes out, and then it'll be, you know, it'll be the champ for probably the
next
gap
decade
between 5 and the next 10 years. It'll be there until Grand Theft Auto 7 comes out.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it really is. It's fascinating. On our next slide, we actually talk about a little bit more of the non-gaming categories growing. I think like this again to what we were talking about. One of the biggest takeaways for me, sports, 28% growth year over year is incredible. Obviously a lot of new streaming like categories. Like I think I've even seen like WSL, like the World Surf League, has been doing more live streaming across multiple platforms. We've seen a lot on TikTok Live as well. Live Golf has obviously had some streams on YouTube. So I think, seeing that grow as a category, I think has been fascinating. But I guess any color to add here, guys?
I mean, I think a lot of leagues could take advantage of sports. I mean, you got the NFL doing Thursday, you know, with Amazon doing Thursday nights. I think that's great. I think some minor league stuff. So like looking at like soccer, whatever, you know, like my local team, you know, in Detroit, like they're just now creeping into a couple stations on TV. But if they threw it on Twitch or threw it on YouTube Live, like I'd be watching every single game. Like that'd be great. I think it's just a matter of, you know, licensing rights and stuff like that. And like, are they able to do it and do it in a quality that people are going to continue to watch? Because obviously, like if you don't have the crew to film it properly for a TV broadcast, because that's what it is, then it's not going to be a good product. You don't want just a static camera looking at all of it, because that's not really fun and engaging.
Right. The production bar is a little higher.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I think some of the sports stuff, like with, you know, Amazon and like doing the Thursday night, I think that's it's propped up a little bit because like they can put it on the front page and all these things. So like it helps the bottom line there. I do think we're going to start seeing special events creep up a lot more, because all these creators doing these big events, you have, you know, Cutie doing the streamer awards all the time. Ludwig in the same vein, you know, he did his Beerio Kart event this weekend, which doesn't, I mean, technically it's, you know, a game, but like that to me is a special event. So those types of things like people can watch. And then also the big thing with some of those special events is all the co-streaming. Like that stuff is really beneficial to viewership as a whole, if they're able to do it.
Yeah, I know it's always been kind of a hot topic of like, are you borrowing the audience? Are they really going to stay? It's like, it's been successful for long enough for that not to be a topic of conversation anymore. I think it's clearly shown its value, and co-streaming and leaning into that has been a huge piece.
I think everybody already is, you know, you got to be thinking about, you know, the 3-screen method, because you're, you know, if you're sitting on the couch watching TV, you got your big screen. you probably have like an iPad, which is your medium, and then you have your phone, which is your small, because people's attention spans are not there. And like
Yeah.
I saw my wife sent me a TikTok. She's like, oh yeah, I'm, this woman's like, yeah, I'm on, it's a Tuesday night, I'm doing 3 screens.
Yeah, I saw that
My
one too.
big, yeah, exactly. So it's like that, where
Yep.
you're passively watching something in the back and then you're engaging with it. Like I was watching a YouTube stream last night, and with Apple TV, you can throw the stream up on the television and keep chat open on your phone and chat from your phone. Which to
Interesting.
me, that's a huge feature. Like
Yeah.
Twitch doesn't have that, I don't believe,
Mm.
with their app. If they did, I would probably watch Twitch a lot more on my TV. But
Yeah.
with YouTube doing that, I would
back to
yeah.
What I was saying about YouTube. Yeah, the integration of it in everything just makes it more accessible. That's I think that's areas where some of the other streaming platforms need to start thinking about, because I mean, obviously, right, the audience is going there. The audience is there. So that, to me, is what's driving some of the additional things like sports and everything growing, is because, we got to go where the people are. And, and they're not on, traditional broadcast TV anymore. I got to go where they are. And that's going to continue, right? That doesn't change, because the next generation coming along, that's all they know. There is no traditional broadcast for them.
Yeah.
They are 3 screens all the time.
Yeah, my kids are under 10, and like when a commercial comes on, they're like, what is this? They don't know that. They haven't experienced that. They don't know the stress when your favorite show was on at 8 and a commercial hit and you had to run to the bathroom and get back so you didn't miss anything. Like, they don't know that. Like, that's not a thing anymore. And like,
exactly.
Especially with all the services that you can have, where you can get Hulu with no commercials, and you can have all these channels, Disney Plus with, again, no commercials, depending on what you're paying.
Oh yeah.
It's not something that they've grown
or like
up with.
all of the time I spent on channel return between Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network station number 37 and 45.
Yeah,
I didn't forget.
jump in between.
Commercial on one, jump to the other. I may had 3 going on at one. Well, maybe that was it's 3 screens back to I guess 3 shows regardless. But,
yeah.
But
until
again,
they figured out to do their commercials at the same time. But
exactly.
Yeah.
Rats. Spoiled again. But terrible. I think again, back to the co-streaming point, I think with esports viewership continuing to grow, the trend continues. And I think it's like a really interesting piece for a lot of smaller events to take advantage of too, like doing co-streaming for a smaller, like weekend long thing, or even like a single stream, I think can bring a lot of success to it. Like even back to the point of like when we're talking about first person shooter streamers, when they're going to be focused in, like some of the more fun times is like when you're tuned in, there's one person left, like say Ninja's there, and then Doc and Tim are screaming at him as he tries to go through final circle. Like that's when it's fun, when it's more of a larger group. So I think in that same vein, making it a more inclusive piece, I think even for smaller events, co-streaming could really be successful.
Yeah, I think one of the standout ones for me has been Nicewig with his Apex Legends streams, like, getting his commentary on, on all the stuff where they're just giving him feed and he can jump in where he wants and talk. So it's a different perspective. I think that's really cool. From a brand side of things, like obviously if like it's a bigger event like LCS, something like that, brands start to miss out on the, deeper integrations that they have, those talking points between matches, the commercials. Cause I notice a lot of like co-streamers will not, they'll pause and they'll wait, or they'll open up another stream because like they're not sponsored by that brand. So I think in some cases, like there needs to be a little bit more control of like, hey, if you are going to co-stream, you have to have the sound at a minimum level. You have to have these things, because like if a league is going to count co-streaming viewership to brand deliverables, they better be sure as hell be getting that brand deliverable on those places that it's going.
Yeah, the consistency, I completely agree. And like you can't have 2 different products, one that's muted and kind of talked over, and the other one that has the shining front and center page. I totally agree with that. There's definitely some correction, but yeah, hopefully I think that's all something people would want to work towards though. Awesome. I think we have about 2 slides left. So again, as we've talked about a little bit earlier, and we saw on the top streamers list, simulcasting has been really successful for a lot of folks. Ninja has seen a 96% growth in audience year over year. We've seen a lot of different streamers kind of take advantage of it. Do you think it's going to continue, or do you feel like, I feel like there was a load of adoption on multi-platform, and then that's probably going to be the case. I don't know if it's just going to be a universally accepted thing, but I don't know. I feel like it's slowed a little bit in the last month or two.
I think a lot of creators have figured out which channels have worked for them, and then they've kind of like walked themselves back. Because I know, like, you looked at, you know, when Ninja first was like, dropped his Twitch partnership, he's like, I'm going to be live on every single platform, right?
Yep.
He has the means to do that, right?
Yeah.
His computer's strong enough. His computers are strong enough to broadcast to the, what, like 5-6 platforms he was on. But you look now and he's on like maybe 2-3.
Yeah.
I think a lot of creators did that. They're like, I'm going to throw everything at the wall, see what sticks, and then I'm really going to lean into that. I think right now the majority, it's Twitch, YouTube, and then people are on TikTok.
Yeah.
With TikTok, it really depends on, I think, your level of creator. If you have access to a stream key, so you can put it in OBS, and then it makes it a little bit smoother. If not, you're running it through TikTok Live Studio, which is a CPU hog, depending on the tech you're running.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of creators have kind of like whittled it down. TikTok really needs to fix a few things, because I've tuned into a lot of streams and people are like just saying the same thing over and over. I'm playing this game. I'm playing this game. Yes, it's this game. Or if they get something early in a game, they're like, yep, I got the mech in Helldiver 2. It's not out yet. Nope, you can't get it. It's this. And it's just like, do they really want to be? It's like, it was like almost like the NPC streams again. Where they're just saying the same thing over and over again.
Yep. Yeah. Interesting. And I think, to your point, Steve, like the fact that you don't see one channel with like Kick still on the list, like Ninja, again, throwing everything at the wall, whittling down. Yeah. So if anything, maybe we see less of it or more of a focus in the future. Brett, anything last to add here before we go to the language?
No, I mean, it's all so new that it's hard to even predict what will happen. I think, again, if there's an audience and there is a match with the creator and the content, the easier it is for that audience to access it, that's what I think people will do, right? You know what I mean? And if the audience isn't working for the creator and it's a level of effort for them to support that other platform, then that will probably drive that behavior as well. But it's still, like I said, it's still so.
It's kind of a game for established creators, right? Like we're not going to see a lot of like micro creators that are really trying to grow audience have the horsepower to do it on that many platforms, let alone the audience. But I think that's a really interesting take.
Yeah, I tried to go live on like 3 places at one time the other day, and it just, my computer's like, nope, like it didn't want to do it. Nothing worked right, and I'm like, all right, YouTube, Twitch, there, we're done.
Try me on Thursday. Maybe we can talk again. Very good, awesome. Well, on the last slide here, we are covering language growth. So obviously, very global year. We're seeing a lot of increase, obviously in Russian language, Ukrainian. We've seen a ton, Turkish, Japanese. I think the Japanese piece for me is really interesting. I think it's a culture with an enormous amount of video game love, but in my opinion, with a smaller esports footprint, right? Or a smaller streaming footprint as a whole. So you just don't see the same types of creators in Japan. So that's a market that we've been really interested to see grow. And I guess, glad to see that's a pretty significant jump, quarter billion hours year over year.
Yeah, those are, I mean, growth is good. I mean, your viewerships are coming in. I know with like, when Facebook gaming was a thing, like, depending on what games you were playing, like all of your audience could be, from a complete country that you're not even in. Like I think I played Call of Duty Mobile a couple times, and I gained such a huge, like a way more following than I had before, but I looked, none of it was in the US because that game wasn't as popular here.
Yeah.
So I think that's also a big indicator too. Cause like in some of these countries that like mobile games are more popular. Like if you want to grow as a mobile game creator, like you can be targeting some of these other countries outside of the US, Canada, and see significant growth
really
quickly because, oh, you're playing this game. It's a high quality video because you can, utilize your computer or whatever. Like, it can definitely be a strategy for creators to take advantage of. Also, too, if you're multilingual, like, you could totally capitalize on all this stuff.
Yeah. The fascinating part about this is actually just going to be Twitch specifically. So I think as a main North American and European brand, to see this, I mean, Portuguese obviously in the running, but more of an Eastern European presence, I think, is probably good as a net increase for them globally. I'd be really curious because obviously data comes from different platforms in different ways. For YouTube, it'd be like country of origin. But yeah, Steve, to your point, I think mobile games specifically, like YouTube, is a much better platform for you. And I think even their VOD content has a little, or short form can be a little bit more sticky with that. But yeah, I guess any final thoughts? And then with 5 minutes left, I guess if there are any questions for the group, happy to address them with the last 5. Stream Hatchet, empower your insights. And Sidekick, empower your insights.
I will say the update to the Stream Hatchet website that you guys just pushed out is great. Like, having the kind of a front facing like news feed on it, that you don't even have to have a membership to look at. That's a good feature, especially not paid, not sponsored to say any of this stuff. But I enjoy it because, like, I think I sent something to someone else on my team, and they're like, oh, you have to log in for that. And then literally like 2 days later, you guys push the update and they're like, oh, I can get this article again now. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So
I again just want to shout out Amanda Brooks, who's been captaining this from our side. She's done a tremendous job. It is a Herculean effort. We're thrilled with the result. Really appreciate it, Steve. I think as we grow, we want to be able to not have all of our great, interesting insights and analytics behind a paywall, and make it more accessible for folks to make those connections. So yeah, it's only going to be getting better, more deeper, thought-provoking articles and insights to come. But yeah, make sure to check out the new website. We're very, very excited for it. And Sidekick's website will be the next. So we'll be sure to share that update when that one's going live. But yeah, lots of great movement there. Appreciate you saying that, Steve.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, with 3 minutes left, we will go ahead and close up. But again, if you want to reach out to any of us, we'll be sure to list our emails kind of in the post information here. But yeah, appreciate you guys and everybody tuning in today, and look forward to the webinars in the upcoming weeks and months. If you guys are going to be at GDC, we'll be there as well. Looking forward to see everybody at the conference in San Francisco. Thanks.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.